All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Comp 2452. Gosh, I hope you've all had an excellent weekend. I hope that you all celebrated Pi Day. Did you all celebrate Pi Day? About 3 people are nodding yes. What kind of pie did you have? Saskatoon? Blueberry? Okay. Those are all the best pie. I just love pie. It doesn't matter what kind it is. The only kind of pie I don't like is no, there are no kinds of pie I don't like. I even like mincemeat pie. Mincemeat pie is good. Mincemeat pie is like, it's got raisins in it. People hate raisins in pies for some reason, but like, I don't know, they're fine. They're good. I love it. I might just like pie crust more than anything, and that maybe is the problem, but yeah. I hope you've all had an excellent weekend. What I want to talk about today is I want to finish up these design heuristics. So we've got 3 total heuristics that we're thinking about in this course. We've got the idea of visibility. That was the first one we talked about. We've got the idea of feedback. That was the second one we talked about. And today we're going to talk about the last one, which is about consistency. I'm going to remind you that, like, again, these design heuristics they're obvious. They're something where it's kind of like, of course, I'm never going to do it that way, but I want to remind you that the examples that we're going to look at in class were made by real people. They were made by people who were either like externally forced to do it the way that they did it because of like the tech that they're using. So like I'm thinking about MS-DOS. I know that this is archaic, but this is somebody that had to do what they could with the tech that they had available to them at the time. This might be external factors like your manager telling you it's taking too long, just get it done, because this is costing too much for us to develop. That might be related to some of the reasons that we're seeing kind of like problems related to these heuristics and other examples that we're looking at. I also want to remind you, like, we're not judging the devs here. We're not judging the people that are using this software. The stuff that we're thinking about for these design heuristics are really meant to be about for us to start thinking about how somebody might see our software, how they're going to interact with it, and how the design choices that we're making affect their ability to use the software. I'm going to ask you very strongly to reflect on your own experience here with Nano versus Vim and VI. Whether you've used Vim a lot or not, I want you to reflect on the experience of how it felt for you to be able to accomplish the task that I asked you to accomplish, which was make this text file that has certain contents and write it out with a specific file name. Whether you are very experienced with VI or not, you know that those experiences felt quite different when you were using those 2 different text editors. So when you're thinking about why we're thinking about these different design heuristics, remind yourself of that feeling and that experience of like, this felt very different to be able to do that task. The other thing that I want to do today is I want to spend a little bit of time taking a look at what we're going to be doing for phase 3 of the project. We're kind of running out to the end of the course here, so I've posted up on the course webpage the design part of phase 3 and the kind of the overall expectations for phase 3. But I want to spend a little bit of time in class today going over that. In Thursday's class, so next class that we have this week, I'll give you some time to ask questions about the project just in general, but then we'll also spend a little bit of time talking about the term test because our second term test is going to be a week from this Thursday. So next Thursday we'll have our second term test. Before we get to any of that though, I want to spend some time reviewing visibility and feedback. So I'm going to ask you to pull up Mentimeter here. I'll hold this QR code for a few seconds. And then I will switch over to Mentimeter, and we can take a look at some questions. Okay. Also, so as part of this, we now have a Dragon Egg. I don't know why we have a dragon egg in Cookie Clicker, but we have a dragon egg. So we're going to sacrifice 2 million cookies here. I think I can do this without it being detrimental to the afternoon class. We'll sacrifice 2 million cookies. We'll sacrifice 4 million cookies. Okay, it's a shivering dragon egg now. I don't want to spoil it for you, but eventually a dragon's going to hatch from this cookie-shaped egg, I'm going to make sure that we have enough cookies, though, for the afternoon class to see this. Let's actually look at some of these questions. Okay, so I'll hold this for 5 seconds if you want to still get connected. The first question, I'm going to tell you this before we get to it. I've marked all the answers as correct. There is just one answer that's correct, but what I want you to do is I've given you some time here. You can pick something, but I want you to take the time to discuss with either the person beside you or just think about it in your own head, especially given the response of what we see here. In terms of making it competitive, it's still points allocated to fastest correct answer, so just pick something immediately. Just pick something as fast as you possibly can for this one. They're all marked correct, okay? Okay, so take a moment, talk about it with the person beside you, talk about it with someone near you, just think about it in your head. I can't make you talk to people, but sometimes it can be nice to talk to people. I'm going to give you about 10 seconds, and then I'm going to switch to the actual question. Okay, are we ready? Are we good? Okay. I'm gonna give you the actual question now, and now only one of them is actually marked as correct here, okay? They're in the same order. Okay, good. I'm really delighted by this, yeah. So visibility for us is this idea that when I'm using software, I only really know what I can do in that software based on what I can really see. So with Nano, I'm going to pick on Nano again. With Nano, told us right at the bottom, here are all the things you can do right now. And because of that, I knew what I could do in this app. With Vim, we don't really have that option. It doesn't really show us, it tells us how to quit. I love that. I love that the only instructions in Vim when you start it up are how to quit Vim. That's all it tells you how to do. It's just, maybe get some help, but also here's how you quit Vim. But the idea of visibility here, the best answer for me is a user only knows what they can do if they can actually see it. So if you tell them what they can do, they know what they're going to be able to do. Here's the next question. This one is not structured that way. This one is just going to be one correct answer. Okay, awesome, yeah. So possible actions were always on the screen. I'm surprised nobody picked this option just to tell me to shut up about Nano and Vim, but well, that just gives me more incentive to keep talking about Nano and Vim all the time. I'm never going to stop now. Yeah, I mean, I guess I just said it before I came to this question, but the idea here that Nano is more visible than Vim is really because it's got right on the screen all the time what the possible actions are. And so Nano for us was more visible than Vim in that context. I don't want to be beat by Rob. Good. Rob told me, for the record, that on one of his quizzes, somebody drew a picture of Walter. And I was just so happy to see that. He even gave a screenshot, but I'm not going to share it with you because that's just for me. That's just for me. Great. Yeah. So showing the feedback, showing the user what the system is doing. When we were thinking about this was in a couple of different ways. This was showing the user what the system is doing in terms of you click on this button and something is happening in the background. Like for us, when we've been thinking about this for the last couple of courses, this is like that diamond shape. You know, something's happening in the background, but it's not instant. And so we want to give some indication that something is happening here. The something is happening here was also two other ways that we were thinking about this. It was showing that you've done something wrong. Here's how you can fix that. So clearly stating what that thing is, but also like, hey, thumbs up, you're doing the right thing right now, giving some kind of positive reinforcement to what you're doing. Telling the user we know what we're doing, just trust us, okay? I mean, I guess fair enough, but yeah, the best answer here is showing what the system is doing. I don't know if anybody cares about this, but this is an orange amplifier in the background. This is like if you're going to a very loud music show, typically these are the kind of amps that they'll have and like feedback. You take your guitar and you just stick it in front of that thing and it will just give you great feedback. Yeah, orange amplifiers. Okay, yeah, so great. It had a progress bar. Like that was the most obvious kind of feedback that it gave to us, that it showed us like progress was happening. We got to the point of pressing the enter key. We had no mouse. We pressed the enter key and it started doing the install progress and it showed us the progress bar. Another part of what it was showing us with this progress bar was it was actually showing us which file it was copying every time it started to copy a new file. There was a little section on the bottom of the screen that said, like, this is the name of the file that I'm copying right now. Here's the progress that's happening overall, and here's the file name that I'm copying. DOS itself, the installer, MS-DOS installer, like that's not really part of the disk or the hard drive, but this also would have been some actual audible feedback that we would have got from our system were we to be installing this on an actual physical system. So, oh boy, do I actually have disks today? I do. I brought disks today. I have disks. This is not an MS-DOS disk. This isn't a Macintosh. This is a System 6 install disk. This is also from before I was born, but this disk, I don't know how many of you know the sound. I can hear it in my head right now, but you push this into a drive and it makes buzzing noises. And it's making buzzing noises because this is really tiny and hard for you to see, but there's this surface underneath this kind of sliding thing that I'm moving here. And inside of this, there's a circle. And there are these things that are called disk read and write heads, and they're kind of like a clamp like this, and they kind of move back and forth on the drive like this. And then on the back of the disk, there's this metal circle, and there's another thing that's spinning the disk. And so you can hear these buzzing noises as the read and write heads are moving back and forth across the disk to kind of say like, oh, there's something happening here. We would have gotten some audible feedback from our system, not MS-DOS installer, but MS-DOS installer would have been using the disk drive and the hard drive to do that. It also gave us an error message when we entered invalid data. It did give us an error message when we entered invalid data. I tried to type something in for the path of where this is going to go, and it said, no, this is not a valid path. One thing it didn't do, unfortunately for the one person that selected this, one thing it did not do is it didn't give us positive feedback when we were entering valid data. There wasn't any indication. So when I'm thinking about positive feedback here, the thing I want you to think about is me whipping out my wallet and typing in my credit card number, and it's showing that this is a Visa card to say, yeah, positive feedback. This is definitely likely going to be something that we're looking for here. Here's our last question. Okay, all right. Okay. So, I mean, fair enough. Like, I'm glad this is not for marks because I'm not going to ask you questions like this for the record. I don't want you to have memorized the MS-DOS install procedure. Don't memorize that. I'm not going to put that into the slide 6 times, but don't memorize how to install MS-DOS here. When telling us to enter a new disk, it actually did tell us which disk to enter. It said to enter disk 2. It said to enter disk 3. So it actually did tell us which disk to enter when we were doing it. When telling us how to get help, it actually told us how to get help at all. And that itself is like positive feedback to me. It says to type this in. It doesn't say when, so I want to give some spiritual credit to that. But it did actually tell us, like, type in help what's new so that you can figure out what kinds of things you want to get. I'll give some spiritual credit to this because I was just talking so much about this disk read and write head going across the drive surface or the disk surface. But the main thing that it didn't do for us is it didn't tell us what a valid folder was. I was struggling to figure out what was the problem. Was it the dash? Was it the numbers? Was it that I had a file name or folder name that was too long? It didn't tell me. It just said this is not a valid path, and I had no idea how to react to that. There might have been a manual for the DOS install process. You buy your disks from Microsoft and they give you a printed manual, and it might say that stuff in it, but it didn't tell me that in the software itself. So I had no idea what a valid path actually was for this thing. Oh no, no, Rob. Come on, people, I'm really disappointed. Congratulations, Rob, whoever happens to be Rob in this room. I don't think that Rob would actually have the QR code for this, but I also just wouldn't put it past him to participate in this poll in his office right now. Go back to the slides, Franklin. Okay, so thank you all for participating in that. We're going to keep using that Mentimeter in a couple of minutes, but I do want to move on to this idea of our last design heuristic here. The last design heuristic that we've got for us in this course is that we want to have consistency in our interface. Interfaces that are internally consistent. So when I say internally consistent here, I mean entirely within this system. So like I'm not thinking about consistency between like your apps and Microsoft Word, for example. I'm thinking about internally within your own application, it is consistent. Internally consistent applications reduce the amount of learning that somebody has to use to figure out how to use your system. If your app is internally consistent, a person's going to have to learn how to do something once, and then they're going to see the same sorts of things show up in different places and be able to recognize that they can do the same kinds of things with those consistent implementations and interfaces. We're going to be thinking about this in two different ways. One is going to be the physical consistency of your application. So this is going to be things like the overall structure of your application, how it's laid out on the page, and labels that you have for things. So the text that you put in different places to either describe what you're expecting as input or to say like this is an action that you can do. And then related to that is this idea of abstract consistency. So sequences of steps to accomplish this one task and then to accomplish this other very similar task. I kind of have to go through the same general process to get through those things. When we're thinking about this, we've got some questions that we want to think about, kind of in the same way as we did with feedback and visibility. The questions that we want to assess for our UI consistency are things like, do all buttons that we have in our application consistently use verbs? So buttons really should be actions. This is something that's going to cause my system to do processing, and so a button really should have a verb on it. There shouldn't be a button in your system, for example, were we to be modeling this, that just says cookie. That's not a verb. It doesn't do anything, but a button causes something to happen, so it should involve or invoke a verb. Do all buttons have the same kind of labels on them? So are they using verbs? Do they have labels on them at all? And if they have icons, do they consistently have icons to describe what this thing is going to do in some kind of abstract way? So having icons sometimes versus having icons every time versus never having icons, being internally consistent with those kinds of things. When you're expecting input from a person, do all the input fields have labels that reasonably describe what you're expecting them to type in? So anytime you have an input field on your page or your application, do you describe what the expected input is? What are you looking for from the person that's sitting in front of your machine? And if you have a variety of different operations, do they all flow in approximately the same way? And I'm thinking abstractly here of things like flows of interaction. We keep asking you to make these flows of interaction, but we're really trying to get you to model this abstract flow of like, how am I going to get from A to B? How am I going to accomplish this task? And then to start to think about making sure that these things are consistent with each other. So buying stuff in your different systems, you have two different streams here, but buying stuff in your two different systems really ought to be quite similar flows to each other. Buying one item versus buying another item, buying an upgrade versus buying a building, the flow really ought to be quite similar to each other in terms of the sequence of operations that you're doing here. I want to go through some examples as we have done. I've printed out some of these physical questions, but again, I've posted this up on the course webpage as a Word document. I'm going to pass this to you at the front and just take one if you want a physical piece of paper to write on. But I do want to step through a couple of different examples here to take a look at the idea of consistency. This time today, I'm going to just do all the driving, but what I want you to be doing while I'm going through these exercises is just kind of keeping track of the things that are consistent and the things that aren't consistent. I'm going to be trying to verbalize what I'm looking at, but I just want you to look at the screen, see what things you notice that are or are not consistent when we're doing these kinds of things. The Mentimeter feedback that I'm going to be asking you for is going to be of the form of tell me about what you saw that was consistent and inconsistent in these different examples. So the first one that I want to take a look at is Pizza Hotline. I want to take a look at Pizza Hotline, and the task that I want to have for Pizza Hotline is I want to go through the process of beginning to order a pizza here. This time I have logged into Pizza Hotline in advance of the class, and so we're already at this page. And I want to start, like I said, taking a look at this process of ordering a pizza. That's ultimately the goal that I have. But I also want to make sure that we're taking a look at all the other things that we can possibly do on this page. So the questions that we've got for this operation are things like, I want to make sure that we have consistency of things like buttons. Are they all using verbs? Do they all describe what they're supposed to do, their actions? Do they consistently use things like icons or not? Do the different tasks that we could do flow in approximately the same way? So are we looking at, we're looking at ordering pizza here. So the kinds of things that we're going to be doing for ordering pizza, do these all flow in approximately the same way? I'm going to hold on this page for a moment. I'm going to let you think, take a look at what we've got. I'll zoom in here so that it's as wide as the screen will allow it to be. And I want you to think about this idea of consistency. Okay. I'm going to choose the 4XL Party Pack here. And I'm going to scroll down a bit. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Is that still big enough for you to see at the back okay? Okay. Same deal. I want to dwell on this for a moment, and I want you all to think about this idea of consistency. Do all the things that I can do on this page in terms of inputs, are they labeled? Are all the buttons structured in such a way that they are consistent with each other in terms of the labels that they have on them? Are they all verbs? Do they consistently use icons? And the thing I want you to now think about, because as we're getting to this kind of like we've got behavior here, do the operations that we'd want to be able to do here, do they all flow in approximately the same way? I'm going to hold here for about 5 seconds. I'm going to add some toppings to my pizza now. Give me some toppings. Shout them out, please. Tuna. Pineapple. Oh, my God. Okay. I'm going to do what I know to do. Like we've ordered pizza now 3 times, I think, so I know what I need to do to accomplish this task. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to click here to add toppings. But I'm going to stop here for a moment again, and I'm going to ask the same question here. Are the operations that I can do consistent with each other in terms of buttons? Are there verbs on all the buttons? Are they using icons consistently? And are the things that I could do here approximately the same? This page has only changed in a tiny little way, a small little way here right now. I'm going to say that nobody should ever want pineapple on their pizza. If you like pineapple on your pizza, you're wrong. I'm sorry. You're just very wrong. Gosh, I don't care if I've offended anybody. You're wrong if you like pineapple on your pizza. I'm going to remove that. Let's pick a better topping that goes with tuna. Let's pick a better topping that goes with tuna. Let's pick Kalamata olives. Okay, yeah. Here's me saying it's fine to have like olives, but not pineapple. We just did 2 things. I just did 2 actions here. And I want you to assess this internally. Are these consistent with each other, what we just did? I'm going to do one last thing for my pizza here. I want my tuna with Kalamata olives to be extra sauce. No, I don't want it to be extra sauce. I'm going to remove that. So please notice what has happened to the page as I've done that. I'm going to remove my extra sauce. Instead, I'm going to say that I want this to be ranch. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I want this to be, a ranch tuna and olive pizza. Notice how the page has changed. I want you to pay attention to what has happened to the page. I'm going to even do it again to make sure that you see what is happening here. I'm going to remove ranch, and I'm going to add ranch sauce here again to my pizza. I don't know, actually. Do I need to choose regular? Okay. I'm going to choose regular. All my toppings are gone. I'm going to call that a bug. Let's pick actual toppings here. What's an appropriate actual topping here? Shrimp. And what? Pineapple? Okay. Now I'm going to choose ranch just to make this perfect. I'm going to choose ranch. Okay. So see what has happened to the page here. And I want you to, again, internally assess, was this flow of operations consistent? What we just accomplished, was this flow of operations consistent with this? At this point, I'm going to click Next Step. We're going to order our second pizza. The second pizza, I want this to be a half and half pizza. And so I'm going to do what I know to do here. I'm going to choose an input here, side one. This time I'm going to pick pepperoni and mushroom. This is a standard. It's a good like solid standard for pizza. I'm going to click here to add my toppings. Okay. Now I want to choose the other side. So I'm going to choose this. One of my kids always just wants just ham. I don't know why, just ham. They don't want ham and pineapple. They just want ham. They just want ham. So fine, we'll get just ham with extra cheese. And I'm going to add my toppings. Okay. Okay, so we've accomplished two things here. Again, I want you to think about this idea of consistency. Was the operation consistent with whole pizza, side one, side two here? At this point, I'm going to say, I actually don't know what's going to happen here. I'm going to say I want to cut this up into squares. So I think I have to click here to add my toppings to cut it into squares. Yes, I do. Okay. And then I'm going to go to Next Step. And at this point, I'm going to stop because just like last time, I don't want this to show up in my house. I'm going to go back to our Mentimeter. And I've given you some kind of moments here to think about this. The specific question I'm asking you about here is, how was it inconsistent? So what operations were we doing? What kind of things did you see on the pages that were inconsistent? Does anybody want a printed copy anymore? Were there any more? You got some at the back. Thanks. Okay. It's consistently making me hungry. It's 10 a.m. It's not time for pizza. I can't see what's happening on the page. So that's fair. That's a fair assessment. I think that that's a visibility issue, though. More than anything, if I were to try and classify what this is more of a visibility issue. It's not really clearly showing me what's necessarily happening as we're proceeding through this. So like choosing different toppings for different sides, it's not necessarily obvious to me that I have actually accomplished that unless I know to look in that one spot. The first 4 giant buttons were plain images rather than buttons. They weren't icons. They didn't have any verbal verb labels. So verbal, just for completeness, verbal is speaking out loud. A verb is like an action word in English. So this is a modifier that we're using to say I want to do some action. But yes, absolutely, this is an issue with consistency with this application. I mean, there are images, and I know to click on them because when I hover my mouse over them, it shows like the pointer finger. It shows that you can click on this thing. It's a link that I can click on. But it's not consistently labeled. There are no verbs here. It doesn't say order this. It just has 4XL pizza. That's all it really said here. The types of buttons, they're wildly different in lots of different places. If I go back to our Pizza Hotline page here, we've got some buttons here that are appearing to be buttons at the top. We've got another button up here that's a different shape. We have another button here that's a different shape. If I go back, how do I go back? Previous step. If I go to previous step here, we've got buttons here that are different shapes. We've got buttons here that are all different shapes. They're all different shapes. They're all different shapes. Some of them have verbs on them. Remove. Click here to add your toppings. Click here is, I guess, a verb, but not really what I'd expect in a verb. Previous step and next step are not verbs at all. They're descriptions of what will happen next, but they're not verbs themselves. View is a verb. Update is a verb. Specials, pizzas, sides, and drinks are not verbs at all. These are just nouns that are describing what's on the page here. When adding anything but sauce, you had to click add toppings. Good, I'm glad you picked up on that when I showed it and showed it and showed it. Like seriously, I'm quite happy that you saw that because I didn't expect it to happen when I was doing that. I was going into that blind. I wasn't expecting it to go backwards like that. So in terms of the flow of operations, this abstract idea of I have to choose toppings by selecting those boxes and then clicking add toppings versus changing the sauce type, I'd really expect those to be the same flow. Like I'm making modifications to what I want on the top of my pizza, and so I'd expect that to be the same overall flow. Same thing here, changing sauce. I didn't need to click add toppings. The checkboxes are deselected after adding toppings. This is an interesting observation to make, but I'd say that this isn't an issue with consistency. So if I'm interpreting what this person is saying is, if I were to remove pepperoni and mushrooms here, and I were to pick side one, and I were to do ham and tomatoes, and then click here to add my toppings, the selections here have been deselected. I think that's what that person is trying to say. I wouldn't call that an issue with consistency because it happens every time. Like every time I do this, and it kind of makes sense to me that it would in that if I were to select side one and side two here now, then I would be able to just kind of go through and select the ones that I want. So I don't think I would call that an issue with consistency, but it's something interesting to observe. The add topping button was inconsistent. Adding sauce just reloads automatically. Adding toppings is different to the rest of the pizza. For the checked boxes, you need to click add toppings. Lists in some places where we have checklists and others. Yeah, that's fair. So this is, we've got a long list of the toppings that we could select versus select boxes here. These are input type select, and these are going to be input type checkbox. That's a fair observation to make in terms of consistency. The remove buttons look weird. They do look weird, and I'm going to say that it's still consistent with the other kinds of buttons that we have on the page, though. They do look a little bit different. They do have a verb on them. Part of the page was refreshed. There's no verbs on a lot of the buttons that we've got. Verbs and nouns are used both, I think, yeah. I'm concerned for the person who's getting hungry over shrimp and pineapple and ranch pizza. No, that's probably fine. It's totally fine. Papa John's. Okay, I actually don't think I've ever ordered from Papa John's before. Should I? I'm getting one solid no, one nodding yes, a couple of thumbs down, and lots of blank stares. So maybe lots of people are like me and have never ordered from Papa John's. Okay, all right. So that's great. I'm going to leave Pizza Hotline behind now. And what I want to look at instead is I want to look at Pizza Hut. I want to accomplish the same task here, but I'm going to do the same kinds of things. I'm going to stop and dwell on pages. I want you to look at what it shows on those pages in terms of consistency. So I'm going to go to pizzahut.ca. No, I don't want your warm cookies. Thank you. I'll order this to my office, I guess. I'm going to click on View Deals. Okay. I'm going to dwell on this page for a moment. So I want us, again, thinking about consistency here. Do all the buttons that are on the page right now, Are they consistently using verbs? Are they consistently using the same verbs? Do they consistently have icons or no icons? We haven't done any flows yet, but would you expect that the flows here are approximately the similar to accomplish different tasks? And there's no inputs right now, but as we find inputs on these pages, do they have appropriate labels on them? So I'll dwell here for about 10 seconds. Okay, I'm going to order first some garlicky bites and dip. I'm going to select this. I've got additional topping. Oh, like a dipping sauce. Okay. What should I order for dipping sauce here? Ranch. Well, which one? There's three different kinds of ranch. There's peppercorn ranch, ghost pepper ranch, and house ranch. Ghost pepper. Okay, I'll order ghost pepper. All right. Okay, I'm going to stop here after I've selected that. Things have changed a little bit on this page. Are all the buttons that are on the page right now consistent with each other in that they have verbs, labels, icons? So far, the flows that we've seen, we've gotten to the point of approximately adding something to our cart. So we haven't seen any consistency in flows yet, but we've started a flow here. And do all the input fields that we can choose from, there are input fields on this page, do they have labels? Okay, I'm going to click on Add to Cart. All right, we've been taken back to this page. Now, I actually want to order some pizza. So I'm going to go to the family buffet box, I guess. Yeah. Yes, I want this because it has a dessert. That's why I want this. All right. I'm going to stop here and dwell for about 5 seconds. Consistency. Are all the buttons on this page labeled consistently? Verbs, icons. Are the flows that you're expecting from this, so you can start to see that we have different flows that we can take from here, and we have already completed one flow. Are they consistent with each other? There aren't any input fields on this page, so there's no input fields to choose. Okay, I'm going to choose select here for my first pizza. What kind of pizza do we want? Does anybody see anything they want yet? Hawaiian. Okay. I'm going to decide that we can choose from something here. There are choices. There are many input fields on this page. Are they consistently labeled? Are all the buttons that we have on this page consistently labeled with verbs or icons? And the flows that we've got here, are they consistent with what we've already done? I'm going to choose the pan pizza. The pan pizza is the best one. It's the worst for you, I'm sure, because it's ultra greasy, but like it's definitely the best one. I'm going to add this. Okay. All right. Something has subtly changed on this page. Do all the buttons have consistent labels on them in terms of, do they all have verbs? Do they all have icons? I'm going to choose another pizza here. This time, I think I'm going to choose a pizza that will allow me to have toppings. Okay, so I'm going to click on this button here. The button, I will note, is different, but I will ask you to consider if this is consistent. It's different. Yes, it is different, but are the operation that we're expecting to see here consistent in terms of things like they're all consistently labeled with verbs. I'm going to click the word go here. There are different options that we have. So while these are like buttons that we're choosing, ultimately, I'm going to say that these are the same as checkboxes. So there is a check over there that we can see. I will say that these are effectively the same as checkboxes that we can make choices from here. I'm going to scroll down a little bit so that we can get to the point of sauce. This time, I think I'll pick barbecue sauce. There are additional inputs here. Again, are there labels for these inputs? Is it clear? Do we understand what those labels are? I'm going to click on one of them. And I want us to think back to this idea of feedback. If I've clicked on this, what's happening? But more importantly for our discussion today, are the inputs on this page consistently labeled? Okay. I'm going to scroll down here. Let's say that we want extra cheese. What's going to go great with our barbecue sauce? Grilled chicken, I guess. Yeah, that'd be good. There's another input that has been added to my page. Roasted red pepper, sure. Now I'm starting to get hungry. It's only 10 o'clock, come on. I'm going to keep scrolling down here. There are no other options for me. I'm going to click this button, add to deal. I do want us to briefly think now about feedback again and visibility. Do we know where we are overall in this progress? There's no progress bars here, but do we approximately know where we are in terms of ordering stuff on this page? Okay, that's as far as I want to go with Pizza Hut. And I'm going to ask you similar questions here. In what ways was Pizza Hut's interface consistent? It's consistently more expensive. I agree with you. That's why you only order when the deals are like the $5 deal. Yeah, so that you can get cheaper pizza. But it is definitely more expensive than Pizza Hotline. I'm going to argue that it is better than Pizza Hotline, though. I don't care who I've upset with that comment, but Pizza Hut to me is better than Pizza Hotline. I'm gonna date myself here, but when I was a kid, there used to be Pizza Hut restaurants that you'd actually go to, and it would be like a family event. You'd go sit at Pizza Hut, and you'd place an order to the person coming to take your order, and they'd bring the pizza to your table. So it was a lot more like what Boston Pizza is now. But that was a long time ago. There's a building that's on Pembina Highway. Do you know where the Fort Garry Library is on Pembina Highway? There's a building right next to it that has a red roof. That was a Pizza Hut. That was a Pizza Hut restaurant. Yeah, okay. It's consistently more expensive. Fair enough. Most of the buttons are verbs. Yeah, the buttons pretty much look the same, and they start with verbs. All buttons share the same design. Even when the buttons changed like colors. So I will go back to our page here briefly. Some of these buttons did change colors, but they're all verbs. Change, select. This is not a button. It just says included. All of these say select. If I go back to the deals page here, it says select on all of these things. If I go back to the garlicky bites here and I click select, there's add to cart. All of these buttons look the same, and they all have verbs really as the first thing that's showing up on them. So that's great. It's easier to look at. I want to say that while that might be true, it's possible for Pizza Hotline's interface to become consistent with itself in the state that it's in right now, even with weird checkboxes and like buttons that are maybe looking kind of different from each other. It could be possible for that to become consistent with itself. I'm going to scroll down here. The flow of things are the same. We ordered garlicky bites, and then we ordered pizzas, and the flow of that really was the same. You got to choose the item that you wanted to start with. You got to select some details about that, and then you clicked add to cart, and it showed up in your cart at the end here. The same way to add a pizza every time. It always shows the extra price. There's better verbs. In some cases, the checkboxes are circles, but in some cases, they're squares. I guess that's fair. Stats majors should track pizza sales on Tuesdays and Thursdays. There are some data science folks in this class, so maybe we can ask them to do that for us. Yeah. Consistency on verbs and buttons. Yes, most buttons that changed the page used a red-white color scheme, but they always had a proper description of what the button does. It blows Pizza Hotline out of the water. Thank you for giving me feedback about that to say that I'm absolutely right that Pizza Hut is better than Pizza Hotline in terms of pizza. The add to cart icon has no icon compared to the coupons at the button on the right. Okay, so fair enough. There are some inconsistencies. It almost always has verbs on the buttons. It's consistently hard to find a Pizza Hut location. Fair, I guess. Okay, so yeah, I think that there's a lot of consistencies. The things that really stood out to me were the buttons. Like there's always a button. It always has a verb on it. And the flow of operations that we had between adding these different kinds of things to our cart really was similar. I don't really have to think about how to add other kinds of pizzas. I don't really have to think about how to add anything to my cart because I just know that based on what I did with Garlicky Bites, it should be the same with the other kinds of things that I want to do with this. What's my opinion on Domino's? Domino's, like two after each other. I mean, Domino's is fine, I guess, but I'd rank it definitely lower than Pizza Hut. Okay. Poor Pizza Hotline. The last example that I want to take a look at here is UMLearn, which we all know and love. I want to take a look at UMLearn. Same deal. I'm going to drive here. I'm going to dwell on pages. I want you to note what's consistent and inconsistent about the interface that we're looking at here. I'm going to show you some pages that you've probably never seen before, like last time. This time what I want to do is I want to set up a discussion forum. I want to create a new discussion forum, and I want to make a post in that discussion forum. So I'm going to go over here to UMLearn. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for everybody. This is a course that is a development course that I've got just to test stuff out in UMLearn. So I'm going to go to communication, and I'm going to go to discussions. Okay, so this is the starting point for what I want us to consider in terms of consistency. I'm going to dwell on this page for a moment. There's not a lot here, but I want us to think about the main things that we can see here, which are buttons at this point. So based on what you think you should be able to do for the actions on this page, are the buttons here consistent? Do we have verbs? Do we have consistent labels? Do we have icons? I'm going to click on each of these buttons that I can see here to give you an idea of what's underneath them. So we've got more actions here. And then the other thing that we've got is new. I'm going to click on New Forum. I'm going to give this a name. Okay. I'm going to scroll down a little bit here. Consistency. There's a lot of inputs here on this page. Are all the inputs labeled? Do we have a clear idea of what those labels are telling us that we're going to do or what they're asking for as input? We've got lots of buttons on this page. Are they all consistent in terms of labels? Do they all use verbs? Are they consistently using icons? I'm going to click on this. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to click on Save and Add a Topic. We're now well into a flow here. We have, in fact, accomplished creating a forum, and we're now adding a topic to that forum. There's a ton of stuff on this page that I'm confident, unless you've done grading before, you've never seen a page that looks like this in Learn before. I'm going to expand one of these things, availability, dates, and conditions here. And I want you to look at all of the different inputs, all of the different buttons that are appearing on this page right now, and think about the consistency of this application. Are all the inputs labeled? Do all the buttons have consistency in terms of verbs, icons, labels? And in terms of the flows that we've accomplished, are those consistent with each other? I'm going to change the topic title. I'm going to click on Ungraded. The UI has changed slightly here. I'm going to tell you that this is a button. I'm going to choose Reset to Ungraded. I'm going to click on Add Release Conditions. I'm going to tell you that that's a button. I'm going to create new. We've got inputs on this page. Are they consistently labeled? Is it clear what we're selecting? I'm going to choose Submission to Folder. We've got more inputs here. Is it clear what we're selecting? And I'm going to click Create. This page has changed slightly. Are all the buttons consistent with each other? Are all the inputs consistent with each other? Is the flow of what we're doing consistent internally with the actions that we've done so far? I'm going to go down here. Is it clear what I'm doing when I click on this button? Is it a button? Is this an input? I'm going to save and close. We've created a topic in the forum. I'm going to go quickly into this forum, and I'm going to start a new thread. Although many of you, I think, have seen this flow already. You kind of know what this looks like. You start a new thread here. We've got inputs. We've got many buttons here. And we've got a slight UI change as a result of that operation. The upgrades purchased, I'm going to say I got the dragon. Crumbler, that's the name of the dragon. I've got options here. I think you maybe don't have pin thread as an option when you're doing this, but I'm going to subscribe to this thread. There's buttons here, add, upload, record, choose existing. I don't think you have access to the choose existing button. We've got post to other topics. I don't think that you have that option, but we've got post, save as draft, and cancel. I'm going to click on post here. Thinking about feedback. Is this appropriate feedback that it's given to us? Okay. I'm going to go back to Mentimeter. Give me examples of both. What was consistent with D2L's interface for creating forums, topics, posts? What is inconsistent about that? It's overstimulating. Yeah, the buttons looked the same, The buttons did actually look the same in a lot of places, but not always. The buttons often look the same. The buttons were inconsistent. Many of the buttons did have verbs, but not all of them. There were some buttons that didn't actually have verbs on them. There are also some things that didn't even look like buttons, but were buttons. And you might have only known that they were buttons because I told you they were buttons. And that's because I know they're buttons because I've used them as buttons before. Using verbs for most actions, the input was consistent, but some buttons were unclear that they were buttons. Yeah, consistent dread. I'm really sorry. I should have said trigger warning before we started, I guess. But the sidebar input when creating a topic was something that we didn't see anywhere else. Like, I'd kind of expect when I'm making a forum and a topic that it would really just be the same interface. I don't know why there are two different interfaces for making really what to me are the same kinds of things in this system. So I'd say that these are inconsistent with each other. The layout of creating things was different in some places. The flows of related actions were somewhat consistent. Reminds you of school. That's because it is school. Of course it reminds you of school. On the main page, we have a settings button with an icon. Okay, that's a fair point. In fact, we have a settings button on all these pages. I don't know if you see that button. Do you? Do you see settings button on your pages? Here? Is anybody logged into UMLearn right now to be able to see that? You can see it? Okay, yeah. So like there's a button here. There's also a button here. And there's a button here. And this is also a button. Like there's 3 different buttons at the top that are all inconsistent with each other, and it's kind of unclear what their purpose is. I know what listen is, and I know what the play button is, because I know kind of from outside of UMLearn what that actually means. I don't know what this is until I click on it. To be fair to UMLearn, this is a product that they've integrated into their application. So this isn't something that D2L did. This is something that they would have bought as a product and then integrated into their application. So it looks pretty different, but it is inconsistent here. Take a shot every... Okay, okay, fair enough. Giving feedback when there's an error above, but when successful, the feedback was below. Okay, fair enough, yeah. I'm going to say that D2L is consistent and inconsistent in lots of different places. It does have consistencies in some places. Many of the buttons do have verbs on them. Many of the buttons are labeled the same way. But in a lot of cases, we have kind of strange inconsistencies in the flow of operations here. Creating a forum versus creating a topic within the forum was a quite different flow of operations. And it's not clear to me why those were different kinds of operations. All right. That's it for the Mentimeter. So thank you all for participating in that. I'm going to switch back to my slides here now. Poor Pizza Hotline. I want to take a look at phase 3. Like I said, I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask questions about this next class. But I do kind of want to say that as of like this moment, we're basically done the design part of phase 3. This is what we're thinking about for the design part of phase 3 is really doing assessment of interfaces. So I'm going to go back to UMLearn. I'm going to go back to our actual course here. And I'm going to take a look at the phase 3 design overview. In the phase 3 design component, the main things that I'm looking for you to submit is an assessment of an interface. That is the primary thing that I'm looking for you to submit for your design component for phase 3. The structure of this document, this should be a new document that you're adding to your Git repository or to your project. The structure of this is that it should be a markdown file. The markdown file should have references to screenshots. I want you to take screenshots of your own apps, and I want you to assess your own user interfaces as you submitted it for phase 1 and as you have or will submit it for phase 2. Those are the interfaces that I want you to assess. When you're doing the assessment, I'm looking for you to do really what we've done in class. I want you to do an assessment of feedback. I want you to do an assessment of consistency, and I want you to do an assessment of visibility for your own user interfaces. That's what I'm looking for you to do for phase 3's design component. All of this should be in this markdown file. You can use things like +1 and -1 here if you want to have like thumbs up, thumbs down to say this is a good thing or a bad thing. What we're assessing you on for phase 3 related to this assessment of your own interface is we're assessing your assessment of your interface. It is very much okay for you to say, I did a terrible job. That's not going to change your score. If you did a terrible job, if you did bad feedback, you didn't do good feedback for phase 1 or 2, if you're consistent, if your interface is not consistent internally, like call yourself on it. Thumbs down, I didn't do consistent. Like I've got buttons all over the place and none of them have verbs on them. That's fine. What we're assessing is that you've meaningfully assessed your own interface here. You say thumbs down, I did bad feedback or I did bad consistency. We're going to look and see, yeah, oh yeah, that actually is pretty bad consistency. Like great job on identifying that. That's what we're looking for here. Those are the main things that we're looking for in terms of assessing it. And the way that you should be guiding your assessment is on these questions. I've put these up on the course webpage as separate documents for the lectures that I've got, and I'm going to try my best, my very best, to remember to just put these also alongside this design document so you have quick access to them. I will politely ask you if I forget to please just remind me. I'm not forgetting on purpose. I want to make your lives easier here, so I want to put those there where it's appropriate. I'm going to scroll down here, and I'm going to note that there is no mastery for this thing. I'm not looking to assess you on mastery for your ability to assess your own interface. I'm going to scroll up here. What I do want you to think about, and this is an optional thing, you are not required to do this, based on your assessment of your interfaces from phase 1 and phase 2, how might you change it? We're not asking you to do design, but I do want you to think like, how might I actually go about changing my interfaces as a result of my own assessment of this? I do want you to make one change to your application, and that is that I want you to make a change to the DDL that you're submitting. For phase 3 for the design point, what I want you to do is I want you to populate your inventory tables. I want you to fill them up with more stuff. I want you to add at least 10 purchasable things, 10 new purchasable things. This is just insert statements. This should not require you to change your domain model. This should not require you to change your flows of operation. This is just more insert statements into these tables. That's all I'm looking for here. That is the thing that I'm looking to assess you on for mastery because it's important that you have at least 10 purchasable things in your inventory for the next part, which is going to be the implementation task. I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to go back to phase 3 here. And I'm going to take a look at the choices. I'm going to look at the clicker first. For phase 3, what I'm really looking for us to do for this is I want us to add a new thing to our apps that is auto buying. So you've got upgrades and you've got buildings. Upgrades make clicking faster. Buildings will auto click for you. The next thing I want you to do is to implement a feature that will, as you get enough clicks, it will automatically buy something. The way that it's going to automatically buy something is based on a structure that's called a Markov chain, which we're going to talk about in class, in the coming classes. But we're going to effectively have to go through the process of training this model. We're going to build up a training data set. We're going to train this model, and then we're going to use this model to really like predict what the next purchase should be. But I actually want you to buy it. So as you get enough stuff, I want you to buy the next upgrade in the system. This should not require you to change your domain model. This should not require you to add any new flows of operation. You don't need to update those documents for this when you get to the implementation of this. For the point of sale system, I'm looking for something similar here. The main difference is about I want you to effectively have an automatic personal shopper. Given a budget, so some kind of input value, you've got $500, buy $500 worth of stuff for me, add it to my cart. The structure of this is going to be the same in terms of I want you to use this trained Markov chain to generate what the next thing is. So effectively go through this idea of predicting what the next thing ought to be in the cart until you have no money left in the cart. Likewise, This does not require you to change your domain model. This does not require you to change your flows of interaction. The only thing that's really important for this, for being able to predict the next thing, is that you have at least 10 things to be able to buy. For this point of sale system, this excludes coupons. Coupons are not something that you buy. They're something you add to your cart, or to your receipt to say that I want a discount, but they're not something you'd add to your cart as a product. So for this, I'm looking for stuff that's going to be for a product. I'm going to give you some time to ask questions about this, like I said, next class. But what I want to end with today is this question. In Comp 2400, you learned about state machines. In fact, I believe, if John is not lying to me, you even implemented state machines at some point. And so my question for you is an abstract question. I want you to write it on one of these slips of paper. This is an exit slip. My question for you is, what does a state machine even do? Take one and pass it down, please. And on your way out, please bring it to the front. Drop it off at the desk here. The question I'm leaving you with here is, what the heck does a state machine even do? Please don't write your name on it. I don't want to know, I don't want your name on this. But to summarize here, you should at this point be able to assess an interface. We've got these 3 design heuristics. These are informed by standard design principles. If this idea interests you, I mean, again, we're not doing design of interfaces, but that's the next step of what we're thinking about for human-computer interaction. If this is interesting to you, like thinking about how other people are using our software, the next courses that you would want to take are Comp 3020, so 3020. This is Human-Computer Interaction 1. And the people that you would be interested in knowing about in our department, I didn't put them in our slides today, but I can bring this up for you to show you the people who you might be interested in knowing about in the HCI lab, because we have actually a lot of HCI folks. I'm going to kind of burn through their names pretty quickly because there are a lot of HCI people in our department. Dr. Celine Latulip is someone that does research in human-computer interaction. Her research area focuses right now on elderly people, so seniors, and how they're interacting with systems. Previously, she was interested in things like CS Ed, so computer science education, so how students might be using things like systems. Dr. Andrea Bunt is another researcher in the HCI lab. She's been around for quite a long time in our department. In the past, some of her research has been around working with children, so like the kinds of ways that children will interact with computers and computing systems. Huda El-Mamouni is a newer person in our department. At least when she gave her research talk as part of her hiring process, she was kind of interested in how humans interact with robots. So a little bit more of human-robot interaction, but it is kind of within this domain of human-computer interaction. Dr. David Gerhardt, he has been interested in things like VR in its relation to human-computer interaction. I'm going to keep going down here. Dr. Dan Ray is pretty new in our department. Some of you, I think, are taking a class with him right now. He's interested in human-robot interaction primarily. Dr. Jim Young is kind of at the end here. He is interested again in human-robot interaction. So those are the kinds of folks that you'd be interested in knowing about if you're interested at all in this idea. I'll give you a chance to ask questions about phase 3 of project next class. That's it for today. Please bring those slips of paper back up to the front before you leave. I hope you have a great rest.